dear organizers, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to talk today about the flow state, and I can count at least 3 different realms how we come across the notion of flow in our lives. We would like all to experience the flow. It's very rewarding. As teachers, coaches, lecturers, or just partners, you probably would like to induce people you are dealing with in a state of flow. So that's the second way how we may experience it. And the third one, it's a knowledge. So we need to understand as human beings what the flow is. And if we are teaching others, we also need to explain them how it works. And in my humble opinion, the latter one is actually quite a challenge, because there is a lot of general perception and assumed knowledge about the flow, but if you look into simple instructions, what is it, how to do it, how to achieve it, it's actually quite difficult. And that's what my presentation is about. So, by the end of this presentation, we will learn about a new definition of the flow, which I will present to you shortly. And in addition, I will offer an explanation of how the flow relates to other states of human psyche. I'm personally a great admirer of the theory of the flow. I think it exists. It's a very solid psychological, well-defined phenomena, but it still has a kind of a patchy character. It's just a flow. It exists almost like in a vacuum. And I would offer you an idea for your judgment, for your critique, how the flow may relate to other psychological states. But before I do that, I need to take a minute of yours in presenting you a process of human behavior, a process diagram of human behavior. That's the core of the book which I recently published. So I'm not going to talk about it a lot per se, but I will have to go through it very quickly, because that's the core where the next my conclusions regarding the phenomenon of flow are coming from. So this is quite a simple, actually, process diagram of human behavior. We start with receiving a signal. It can be an external signal or internal signal. We detect this signal. Not all signals are detected. We miss most of them. After that, we need to decide what do we do with this signal next. We need to compare it to a set of criteria. And this set of criteria is our needs. So if a signal is relevant to a specific need we are experiencing or have in our catalog of needs, we move to the next stage. We start planning a response to the signal. We may respond it in a different way, in different manner, in a variety of ways. So hence we do an interaction loop through the risk analysis, and all our plans are based on our experience and capabilities. And based on that, we will perform an act, and that's a very simple explanation of the human behavior. It looks simple, but actually quite tricky, because from the act you have feedback loops, and immediately any act will change your needs, signals, and experience and capabilities. And that creates a very dynamic system of human beings. But I need to tell you about that, because the signals, needs, and experience and act is at the core of the concept of flow. So let's now examine the conventional definition of the flow. Flow is the mental state in which a person performing some activity is fully immersed in a feeling of energized focus, full involvement, and enjoyment in the process of the activity. Is it a definition? In my opinion, it's just a description. Definition explains you what is this phenomenon is about, how you can repeat it, and what do you need to do in order to experience this phenomenon again. So if you tell to the people you are coaching or training or lecturing or even trying to do it for yourself, and you just tell them, okay, so now immerse yourself in an activity, feel yourself fully energized, feel yourself fully involved, and enjoy yourself. So how does it help you? Does it enhance your knowledge? Can you explain what it actually means? No, you can't. And if you look into literature about the flow, this definition is normally accompanied by a set of 6 to 8 paragraphs explaining actually. That's what actually it means. And by the time you come to the last one, you already forgotten what's the first one, so you need to start reading again, again, and again. And even these recommendations are just quite a bit vague. So what I would like to offer to you is an alternative definition. I define flow as a psychological state when a dominant need is preserved by the subsequent action, allowing repetitive regeneration of the positive sensation associated with it. And let me go back to this diagram. So, people, you can call humans a need elimination machines. As soon as we experience the need, we would like to get rid of it, we need to act on it, and make sure that the need is closed. And that's a very simple behavioral process. But then there are some special needs. Let's call them recurring needs or persistent needs. They are strange because you have a need, you act upon it, you completed the act successfully, but you still want to deal with the need, and the need is not gone. For example, if you love your children. So you engage into the experience of love, you love your daughter, son, but you are not finished with it. So the cycle goes on and on again. So that's what I'm saying the real flow is, that we are dealing with a special kind of needs, recurring needs, which are important to us. They dominate the whole field of needs because normally at given time, space, location, we may experience a variety of needs, dozens of needs simultaneously, and we just rank them. So this is important, not important, this is 20%, 30%, and so forth. But in a state of flow, one need dominates the whole human being behavior. And we don't want to get rid of this need. We want to continue with it. And that's the explanation I'm proposing to you. And I think that's the real definition of what the flow is. And now you can go to your students, to your colleagues, to your peers, and you can say, okay, flow is very, very good. It's good for you. It's good if you engage people around you into the state of flow. But to do that, you need to think about the following. You need to, it's very difficult to define like if the need is really flow worthy or not. But be aware, that's a need which is very, very important to you. Like a standard example, typical example would be an artist painting, or a violin player performing at a concert, or a farmer starting plowing earth with the smell coming from it, with the vibration of the tractor. That's also triggers for a state of flow in a much more simple environment. So I dare to say that this is a definition which is concrete, specific. You can explain it to yourself, to others, and that will allow to assess whether or not it's possible to achieve that. And actually, it's if you read it, it's quite challenging. It's not easy. But first, let's say, find a need and go into the state where you don't want to get rid of it. You want to continue with it again and again. There is another thing here. I have not talked about the time aspects, which is not part of the definition of the flow, but it's kind of clarification, which was made by the person who coined the notion of flow. He said that during the flow, all of the attention in the flow state is on the task at hand. There is no more attention to be allocated. And I want to drop that statement because it's really related to the component of time. We are talking about here and now. So here now, you are fully dedicated just to one need, and that's the flow. But I'm inviting you to see what happens. Can we experience a flow if it's not just here and now, but can it be a prolonged flow? And here I would like to go further to this graphical representation, which shows the availability of the skills and need dominance. And in the flow state, you have the highest possible need dominance, so one need overtaking everything, all other needs are gone more or less, and you have availability of the skills which 100% matches your needs, your expectations, your desires. And I would say this is a short-term flow, and that's where you need to have this key about that it's activity at hand. But I would like to invite you to think about what happens if you have a need which is not 100% emanating, which exists in your inner self in parallel with other needs. But the skills for handling this need are still there. So you are fully capable to achieve it, but the needs is coexistent with other needs, and it's long lasting. And I suggest that this can be called a state of love and passion. When I use these words, I was actually struggling to find the right combination of words. I don't mean only romantic love or sexual passion, everything to do with love. As Beatles say, all you need is love. That love to your profession, to your family, to your children, to your hobbies, love of sports, everything which fills you with a need, a desire to continue with this experience again and again. So when you have an engaging hobby, which you are very interested, it's part of your life. It's not that you engage in it 100% all the time, but it's part of your inner self. It's your individuality. That's what you treasure. And I think that's also still the state of the flow. But if we call this one flow as a short term, call it a real flow, the standard, typical, conventional flow, you still can experience a flow in parallel with other emotions, other needs, other states, but this will be less, maybe explosive, yeah, but still very rewarding. And now I want to offer you, continue along these lines and say, can we see what happens if we have a situation where the skills are not available? Yeah? And let's look into the situation. Skills are not available, demands in the need are very high, so one need overpowers absolutely everything. And when the skills are not available, but you have a need which is somewhat less important or urgent to attend. And I suggest that this is actually panic. You have one need, you need to react to it, you have zero skills how to respond to it. You act, but your act is completely irrelevant, and it does not help to eliminate the need. And in my opinion, this is panic. And if you look into that, you have one need which bothers you all the time, you have zero skills in attending it, and you need to work on it again and again and again, and you are failing and failing again and again. And this is depression. And of course, depression is a very complex subject. So people who study depression will probably like to crucify me, because there are different triggers and causes of depression. But in the setting of this presentation, I think you all understand what I mean. So in my opinion, what we actually ended up here is that with the field of psychological states of human beings, we started talking just with the flow, and I started telling you flow is a very solid psychological concept, but it's patched one. It's just flying somewhere in the air, not connected to anything else. However, now I'm trying, it's a hypothesis. I'm saying that you have short-term flow, long-term flow, with the skills fully available. If the skills are not available at all, the equivalent of the flow on a negative range will be panic, and equivalent of the long-term range will be depression. And we, in our life, we position ourselves somewhere in this field. And sometimes we go into the extremes, good extremes, bad extremes, but at average, we are somewhere here. Yeah, so we're just a ball, a balloon, or whatever, navigating this field. So that's an idea, that's a suggestion. You need to critique it, you need to come up with your own opinion, whether it's true or not, you agree or not. So thank you very much for your attention. That is my first presentation. If you are interested, please by my book, which I recently published, The Three Laws of Psychology. What I presented to you is just a tiny fraction of what you can find there. And I have two more presentations, one later this afternoon and another one tomorrow morning. So I was in the flow. I hope you were in the flow, and I hope that you learned something about the flow. So I don't know if I ticked these three kind of boxes, but that's what I was trying to offer. I was a bit nervous. Okay, thank you very much.